This may very well be the best Apex Legends has ever felt. I'm Addy, welcome back to Lost Saves, and it's been a little while since I've been able to put time into Apex Legends, and I popped in while I was benchmarking some new graphics cards and processors, of which I can't entirely tell you about. And for that run, it's now closed unfortunately, but for that run, I was testing it using Apex's temporary or new gun run mode. And I was blown away. I wish I knew sooner that this was in the game. And obviously that's on me for not paying close attention. But holy balls. If you're unfamiliar, Gun Run is Respawn's take on the classic gun game mode, which has been in Counter-Strikes and Quakes and Call of Duties. And it's called Escalation Slayer in Halo MCC. And the core principle, a gimmick in Counter-Strike in most of its original games is that you start through a series of linear guns. It's in Battlefield as well, by the way. You start through, you play through a series of linear guns every time you get a kill or every couple kills. And so you start with like a pistol, and then you get a sniper, and then a shotgun, and an SMG, and you go through like a set of 10 to 25 weapons, or either just the entire, stack of weapons in a game. And there's some challenge and some kind of variety to that gameplay because everyone, is great with different weapons. Some people really suck with certain weapons, and some weapons in some games just suck outright. And this allows you to get a lot more hands-on time with some of the variety of weapons that you may not have unlocked yet, that you may not play with normally. In Apex specifically here, it is really neat because your team, you're on teams of 3, just like the normal game, but there's like 6 of them. So there's multiple teams all in a close sectioned off chunk of the map, and your team unlocks the guns. So you unlock through the gun cycle, which ends on a knife, as it always does in these modes. And your team progresses. So you may get stuck on a gun, but your team rank is higher. And so whenever you finally get a kill with that gun, then you progress to whatever rank the team is at. And so that adds a interesting dynamic. And otherwise, this is kind of what I've always wanted to come to Apex ever since it released. My big issue with Battle Royale titles is the slowness. The Apex has always been an exception because you have so fast movement speed, the encounters are so quick, and you can usually stay high action throughout the whole game. But overall, and even in Apex, I want more classic, TDM, domination, action-packed modes where I can just hop in, play for a few minutes, actually click some heads, and not just run around a map for 30 minutes and die and have to start over. And just get some high-octane action, for lack of a better word. And Gun Run absolutely delivered. It was an absolute blast every time I played. Now, I was benchmarking, so I couldn't have recording software going for the most part, so I only got a little bit of footage, but some of the moments I had were just absolutely bonkers. You're not getting my best clips, but it's fine. It is a blast, and I really hope Respawn considers making that a normal mode. It's what I thought Arena would be, and Arena really it isn't the kind of mode that I want, whereas Gun Run 100% scratches that itch and would be something I played every week if it stuck around, because for the most part, I'd say it's a flawless way to take a game that's typically a BR game that has all these weird mechanics. You just have the level 1 shield, so you have the 2 shield tiers, and that recharges after a certain amount of time if you've stayed alive. You have to heal up your own health, but you have infinite medkit or syringes to do so with. And you don't have to worry about picking anything up. You just spawn with a gun, get a kill with gun, unlock the next tier, and try to get your team up to 25 as quick as possible to get a knife kill. It is brilliant. The only real complaints that I have come down to the strategies that it kind of encourages. There's a couple sections of the maps that they use that it just ends up where, a couple people start camping on this little tiny verticality position that you don't really have access to without the normal drop-in or the balloons or anything like that. And they have what feels like a cheesy or unfair advantage, and that just kind of makes it like, okay, this round's a wash. Those happened less frequently the more I played, but they were still kind of annoying, and it just kind of encourages that behavior once you get up there, and it's kind of frustrating because a lot of the guns you get are the shotguns, are the SMGs, are the guns that make it more difficult to take out someone where you can only see their head on a roof. Meanwhile, they have complete advantage on you. But for the most part, I did not want to stop playing. And so I really hope it sticks around. I really hope whatever direction Apex takes, that they can build that kind of thing. I think it's a sustainability boost for BR games as well. We've seen BRs start to fizzle out a little bit more, have trouble with populations, and obviously this is an answer to something like the retribution modes or whatever they're called in Warzone, which are super action-packed and honestly not very accessible. Maybe that's a complaint too to be had, even with Apex's iteration, is that if you're not already familiar with the guns and all of that, then it's very, you're going to get overwhelmed pretty quickly. But for someone who plays FPSs regularly and has forever and wants that higher, paced action, or just as a cooldown in between matches, if you played a good long match and you don't want to queue up back into another tense one, you just want to click some heads and blow off some steam, or you're waiting on your friends to show up or whatever, it is a great way to keep players involved without relying on the dedicated Battle Royale mode to bring them in. And that's how games used to be. Games used to have a variety of game modes that appealed to different kinds of players. And I think you might see more people playing if they don't have to dedicate themselves to the longer sessions and the more higher stakes, less action, VR modes. As well as you get to leave the VR mode more pure. Like, instead of having to constantly tweak and update the VR mode to make it more exciting, more intense, to keep those players around, if you can have both, why not? I feel like a game like Apex or like Warzone. Warzone obviously has the normal Call of Duty multiplayer to back it up, whereas Apex doesn't. And now Titanfall's not really all that playable unless you're running North Star. I feel like they have enough players to justify it. Like, you're telling me all these games back in the day could have all these game modes and you still find games in every session and it was fine, but the most popular games right now can't sustain that? That doesn't make sense to me. So, like I said, as someone who hasn't played in a little bit, who's been super busy and doesn't play Apex 24/7, but absolutely loved it, and it's one of my favorite games that's come out in recent years as far as first-person shooters go, Gun Run was a blast, and I hope we see more of it. It is the best Apex has felt in a long time. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below, and remember to be kind, rewind.